Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Feisty Aphrodite. I am here with my host, Jessica, and I am Dr. Teralyn. I always want to say this though, because like you're so close to being Dr. Jessica. I wish so. So we'll call you so close to being Dr. Jessica.
There we go.
Because it's important. It's important. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like really, I have a relationship with my dissertation at this point. I dream about it. I think about it during the day. I think about how I should be working more on that relationship.
Is it like a sexual relationship? Like you could fantasize about getting it done and rolling around in all the pages when you're done?
Oh gosh, it's going to be a naked party throwing the pages. Something weird. I don't know. I might go streaking, but it'll be very cold. So yes. I probably won't do that. I'm sensitive to the cold. But yes, it will be a party like in my apartment because obviously it's still COVID times. So
you heard it here first. There will be a sexy dissertation party in Jessica's apartment.
There we go.
There we go.
All to myself. Very
Maybe it'll be a party on the podcast. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how that goes. But I just making it something fun because I remember when I finished mine, there was really not a lot of fanfare at the end. So
it's anticlimactic.
It is anticlimactic.
It's kind of like I did all this work and I'm done.
It's just like I just did all this work. Period.
Yeah.
But now I get to call myself doctor, so that's cool.
That's the climax.
That is the climax. It definitely is. So speaking of that, what we thought we would talk about today is sexual resolutions in 2021. Mm-hmm. Everyone is, New Year's resolutions and all that stuff. And so we thought it would be fun to take a look at resolutions around sex, and actually resolutions around getting your dissertation done would be a good topic for you too.
Right.
Yeah. So when you think about sex resolutions, what do you think of?
I think that it's, okay. So I will preface this by saying I don't like New Year's resolutions because why on earth are people starting them like the day after they've been partying or up all night or something like that? It feels like they're setting themselves up to fail. But I do really like looking at our past year and then noticing what we'd like to invite into our lives in the current year. So I like to think of it like, what do you want to invite into your sex life for this new time? And focusing on that and dreaming that up. Like I have a Juicy wish list that I have posted. It's not about sex, but I mean, it's just about my life in general. And I think that we really need to be mindful of it and create space for it and invite pleasure into our lives. And a lot of people are not living lives filled with pleasure. So it really is an opportunity to think about how you would like to invite that into your life in whatever meaningful way that is to you. Like how I invite it into my life is going to be very different from another person. But I think that people put it on the back burner because it is one of those areas that people don't talk about. It's kind of like, I will just accept whatever shit I am getting right now.
Okay. So I want to talk about this for just a second, because a while ago when you and I were talking, you had mentioned something about how in therapy, we help people move to a place of acceptance of whatever their situation is. And I look at it like accept it, change it, or leave it are my three big things that I tell people about. Nobody ever wants to change it. Nobody ever wants to leave it. So it always leaves you with accept it.
Right.
And so you had said something to me that really resonated. It was like, why do we have to accept shitty sex?
And why do I have to, as a therapist,
encourage you to do it?
Someone to accept something that doesn't feel good for them. I don't accept shitty sex for myself. Why would I expect that for the people that I work with? And that was a big shift for me into not wanting to focus so much on therapy and more into coaching. Was I really wanted to be able to move away from that paradigm of just accepting something as good enough. Because I think that we are all deserving of something spectacular, something great, whatever that is to you. I think that that's important. Of course, if you have a partner that is willing to work on things, like bring that in and see if you can change it. But I receive messages from people all the time. My partner doesn't want to have sex with me, isn't willing to work on it, doesn't want to go to a doctor. Like the partner is kind of like, I don't care that you want that. I'm not going to work on that for you.
Do you think that's always true, that the partner doesn't want to, or do you think that there's something more to it? Because I think like,
oh yeah,
there's typically, when I don't want to go into therapy mode here, but when I listen to people talk, they each have a very different story about sex and what they want. But I think there's a perception that because we don't talk about it, because it causes such negative emotions, that we just shut down. That means you don't want it, period. Right. And I don't think that that's actually the truth, but it's hard to tell somebody that, like, I'm pretty sure your partner probably wants some level of sex or intimacy or something in your relationship. So how do we, if this is on your juicy wish list to have this resolution around sex, and you think that your partner doesn't want it, what do we do?
Yeah, I think you're right. There are always, different lenses to the story. The person that is experiencing the rejection and the person that is experiencing rejecting the partner, or they're experiencing rejection from their lens. Excuse me. So there are definitely all these layers. And sometimes, the person, I see a lot of relational issues play out via sex. So maybe one person really wants the relationship to be done, and this is kind of like their way of creating a power differential. Like I want out, but I'm not willing to get out, so I'm going to make your life miserable. Right. Of course, we experience that. There are for men, it is more difficult to talk about if there's performance anxiety or issues or body changes or all these sort of things. We talked about in our intro episode how it's a taboo topic. It's in the closet still. Yep. And that really activates that mind reading phenomenon that I call, where people say, you should read my mind.
You should know what I want.
You should just know what I like. You should this. So I think that it's something that's so little talked about, that after being in a relationship for 4 or 5, beyond years, it has accrued a certain level of heaviness to it. And I think that it really requires some unpacking with a professional when you get to that point, whatever that professional may be. You might feel like a sex therapist can help. You might feel like you want to work with someone on coaching. But, if the other parts of the relationship are really good, I think it's important to be able to try to work through something. And, after that, and it's still shitty, like if that's one of your values.
Now we've got a different conversation to have,
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing wrong with a good, healthy sex life being a part of your value system. And I think that for so many people, they think that they shouldn't give up a relationship just because the sex is bad. We've got 2 different things. I wear a shirt that says good dick will imprison you. And that means don't stay with someone just because the sex is good, because they might treat you like shit. So that's that fuckboy experience. Yep. But also on the other end of the spectrum, don't stay in a relationship that parts of it are good, but the sex is really bad, because it has such a profound impact on people's self-worth and self-esteem to be rejected when they have this value system. So I think that we have to find where we fit in that. And sometimes a relationship isn't just meant to fit if you're wanting to work on having a better sex life, and maybe your partner doesn't, or thinks it's fine, or maybe you're a little cakey and they aren't willing to try things. Ideally within a relationship, your partner wants to, like co-create a happy, healthy experience.
I think there's this wish list in our heads that rarely comes out. Like, yes. If only, or I really want to ask for this, or I really want to try this thing, whether it's the guy or the girl or the guy, the girl, whatever, guy, girl, girl, whatever it is, somebody has these ideas in their mind of what they would like, you know, but we get hung up in the asking for it.
Mhm.
And I think that's when you get hung up in historical rejection or things like that, whether it's in your childhood or just, you know, I'm not worthy of getting my needs met, that kind of thing, or rejection of your partner at some point, or a partner at some point that
Mhm.
now feels like my needs aren't worth getting met, or embarrassment or shame, or, you know, things like that. Just rhetoric around sex in general
Right.
gets in the way. And, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking about like early stage relationships, because I know later stage relationships, most people are like, why can't it be like it was when we first met?
Mhm.
And usually sex is awesome when you first meet. Like, you're doing it all the time. You don't even need to ask for anything because it's all brand new. Everything is brand spanking new. But as it progresses, you learn to not talk, you learn to not ask, you learn to just do what you've always done in
Mhm.
the bedroom, you
Right.
know, and not explore anything a whole lot different, you know.
Yeah.
So then we stop communicating in the bedroom, and then we have the mind reading phenomenon, and then we have the lackluster performances, and then we have all the wah, 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 you know, at the end, well, whatever, you know, and then we have the checking off of the list, and then you know, all the things just kind of snowballs right on top of each other. So
Yeah. In those long-term relationships, people are coy when they ask about something. They're like, I put in the movie and he didn't
he didn't
respond.
catch on to
He
what
didn't like,
he didn't pick up what I was putting down, you
right.
know? Yeah. No,
And
it's
like
true.
they're watching the movie and they're just watching the movie. So someone is labeling that as a rejection of their needs, but they really haven't talked about
I
it. They
haven't
haven't really
expressed it.
specified. They haven't been like, I want to try this. I saw this in a movie. Let's watch the movie. What do you think? You
Right.
know, it's more of like this, I'm going to sneak this shit in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've already created, you know, a no because you snuck it in. You know, because they're not going to notice it. They're not going to react in the way you want them to react because they don't know that this is the topic that they need to react to.
But they should know.
Right,
Just
right,
kidding.
exactly. Hmm.
They should not know. I mean, if you want to get out of the suffering of your sexual relationship or relationship altogether, stop shooting all over yourself. You
Right.
know, stop having these expectations that your partner should know what you want,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
they should not, because your partner has a whole laundry list in their head about how you should know what they want, you know. And so then we're stuck in this abyss of shooting all over yourself and nobody getting their needs met,
Right.
you know. So when you think about a sexual resolution for the year 2021, evaluate how 2020 went, good, bad, or otherwise, right? Because maybe it went really well for you. I mean, the pandemic in my house created a lot of sexual stuff.
Hmm.
Boredom equals more sex, you guys, just so you know. So a lot more intimacy was created in my household. I've heard it from other people too, either more or less, because stress also impaired sexuality a
Yeah.
lot this in 2020.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about stress, it's not, and we can talk about this again, it's not just like help me clean the house stress.
Right.
It's like this internal dampening of everything that makes you, you know, not feel sexual.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when you think about 2021 moving into that for your sexual resolution, think about, I love how you said juicy wish list,
Hmm.
because it's true. So think about the things that went well for you, think about the things that didn't, and put it on your juicy wish list. And, you know, maybe juicy could just be like, hey, we talk about it.
I was
That
just
could be
saying,
that could be juicy.
communication might just be, you know,
Juicy.
yeah. I mean, being able to talk about it, that's huge.
I do.
If you're naked with your body, why aren't you being naked with your soul with this person? So
Okay,
you
so that could be first on the resolution, is to actually be naked and vulnerable with your body once, you know, because I do know that over time people tend to cover themselves up.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and that reduces vulnerability so much, you know. Just be uncovered once, try having a low lit light once. Scary,
Mhm.
freaky stuff for a lot of people, you
Right,
know?
right.
But if you do it, your vulnerability increases, you know, and so does your desirability actually increases for each other,
Right.
you know, but we've
Usually see
cocooned.
these two foundational issues as a theme in most relationships, that people are lacking confidence and communication. And those are very necessary when it comes to our sex life. Otherwise, we are co-creating something boring and something that becomes rather a currency. Oh, it's your birthday. I have to have sex with you. Oh, I better do this because he hasn't had it for a week. She hasn't.
Or we're going out for date night and there's an unmet expectation that we got dressed up and went out and had steak. Now we're going to come home and have sex, and it doesn't happen. So try not to create currency, I would think,
Right.
in your relationship with sex. It's not a payment for anything.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, because it becomes something like, if it's not a yes from us, it's a no. And the more often that you're saying yes to something that you don't want, you're creating like stored information within your body. Really, like there is a tensing that happens when you don't really want to do it and you say yes anyways. And then people wonder why there's no lubrication, or that it's bad, or it's painful. They never climax. If it wasn't a yes, you know, it was a no. Like, you can do other things, like if you're not feeling it in that moment. But I think it's really important that, you know, to feel full yes, to work on that communication, to work on the confidence. There's so many things that people can add to their juicy wish list for the year. And to make it fun and flirty and all those sort of feelings, and bringing that back into it.
And to not have fear about making it fun or flirty. Like, I think we get caught up in our fear of asking, you know, again, that shameful fear or fear of rejection or whatever. I mean, firstly, you kind of have to be a little bit on the same page with your partner on this juicy wish list. You know, like bring it up, let's have a sexual resolution this year. Let's have a juicy wish list, you know. What's on your wish list? You might be surprised that you might have some similar things. And you might have some like, holy shit, I had no idea that was on your wish list type thing, you know? So get together on this. Otherwise, again, you're going to have your wish list and you think that your partner should know what's on your wish list, or should know that because I presented this, that you're okay with it, you know? So get together and have a fun time and create that wish list together. You know, but so much of it is this, I'm not going to speak it because I'm embarrassed, or I'm worried about your response. And a lot of times the response that you might get from your partner is a response of embarrassment too. You know, so shutting down, like not saying anything, or worry, concern because of what's happened in the history, blah, blah, you know, there's a lot to unpack there sometimes, but
there's a lot of internal shame when it comes to just sharing what your desires are. But the only way to know if it's something that, you know, your partner wants to participate in as well is to bring it out there, to talk about it, to be really brave and bold and be feisty. You know, bring that into your life and share what it is you're looking for.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, you know, your homework is to engage in what I call a sex walk. And so literally go outside and take a walk around the block and start talking about sex, because number one, you're out of your house. You're not talking about sex after an argument, you know, or a rejection, which is what a lot of people end up doing. You're doing it in a very neutral way. Plus you're walking. So it's very conversational, and it doesn't have to be like a heavy flirty thing. It can just be like, what are your ideas? Like, what do you find attractive? Not attractive frequency, anything. You can ask anything. And people are so embarrassed. What if somebody hears me? And I always say this, hooray. Maybe they'd be like, oh, these people are talking about sex. I think I need to do the same thing in my relationship. Chances of somebody hearing you are slim. That's just another act of shame. Like, I can't talk about it, you know, so I'm going to say somebody might hear me. So I tell people, go on a sex walk. It makes things a little bit lighter and easier to talk about, you know? So
when the weather is nice, almost every day, my daughter and I go for a walk. it always turns into a sex talk. She's like, I don't even like going with you anymore because somehow you always bring it back to sex. And I'm like, it's what I do.
Yeah, it was funny because the other morning, so my son is a college freshman, and last summer, we moved his bed a couple of weeks ago, and there was an open condom wrapper underneath his bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I texted him and I said, hey, saw this, and snapped a picture of it. And his response, what do you think his response was?
Oh, the blushy face emoji.
No, or the eggplant emoji. No, he actually said, he goes, at least I was safe, Mom. And I was like, well, that is true.
Right.
And then secondly, I said, what girl in her right mind would go into your nasty ass bedroom and do this with you on your nasty ass sheets? I said, and he's like, what? And so he came home for Thanksgiving, and the day before he left on break, we were sitting at the breakfast bar, and I said, well, I want to talk to you about something. And he goes, what? And I said, well, we're going to talk about sex a little bit, and he goes, oh God, Mom, of course, are we really doing this? He goes, I'm learning about sex from my 52-year-old mother. I said, who better? That's what I said. Who better to learn about it? And I told him, I said, you have to worry about your partner and her pleasure during sex. I said, so keep in mind, like I said, clearly taking her to your nasty ass bedroom had nothing to do with her. It had to do with you. And I said, so keep in mind that sexual pleasure for you is not just about you. I said, put your partner first at all times. And he was just so embarrassed. He didn't want to talk about it. But I'm like, I hope he heard that. I hope he listened to that. And I hope it's on his sexual resolution for the year. Probably not. I mean, he's only 19. So, he's got a ways to go in all of that. But I thought, my God, girl, really, whoever you are, if you're listening to this, make him clean his damn room before you go into it. No matter whose room you're going into. If it look like that, don't go. Like, don't. Have a little bit.
Just spray the Axe and then you go in there. Because that stuff is going to go into your brain and ruin some brain cells based on how chemical it is.
Exactly. I was like, gross. But anyway. All right. So today we're talking about sexual resolutions. And so what do you think, how can somebody create a list? What do you think they can start with?
I think that people have a hard time even imagining what's possible. And so, theory of choice, if we have too many, we make none. So I often encourage them, to go on, Google certain things, how to communicate about sex, so writing down what pops up from that. And it might be more of positions you want to try. So if that's what you're thinking, I want to, things are great. We do talk. I just kind of want to shift into trying new positions. Look at that, because there's information out there to really help you, but you don't really know what you don't know. So you have to be willing to be curious about these sort of things. So it might mean looking into other resources. I usually do an initiation kind of list of what people do for initiations, how they like sex to be initiated for them, because the way that in which we start sets the tone.
That's really good. I like putting that on your resolution thing, how better to initiate sex. Yes.
And I work with a lot of women that are it's really always been their partner's job to initiate.
And usually it is. One person holds the keys to the bedroom.
Yeah. It's a gatekeeper, and then there's a someone knocking on. Can I come
Hello. Is the moat clear? Can you open up the big gate?
We just went out for dinner. Can I come in?
Yeah, right.
So it really becomes, for a lot of women that I work with, they're like, I don't even know how I would initiate. And they feel like they would have to do it in a bold way, because over time, a little cue is just not going to work. It's sliding that in and it failing, and then them feeling a failure. So in a lot of ways, they're like, it's a skill. I don't even know how to participate. I don't know what to do with that. So there's discomfort there. And so we really go through like different areas of initiation, whether it's like I want like a physical initiation, I want a mental initiation, I want an emotional one. So
or I want these words.
yes,
I want you to
exactly.
just come right out and say, hey, let's go fuck, or let's
Right.
have sex tonight, or whatever it is. I want you to say the words,
Right. Or I
be
need a build
clear.
up all day
Mhm.
long. So I need some flirting during the day to kind of get into that mindset. So like we often break down what would really good initiation feel like and look like
Mhm.
for you.
I like it.
So just know that there's so many different things that you could add to your wish list, and maybe just focus on one, and then just focus on that curiosity of what you would like to explore. Think about books you've read, movies you've seen, those sort of things, because the more that we can visualize it, the more that we can help create that.
Some couples I was just thinking about this, like, if you don't want to say the actual words, like have a code, like somebody said once, baking cookies. Let's go bake some cookies,
Hmm.
And we watched 90 Day Fiance, and the one lady always called it Jiggy Jiggy. So so now Steve and I would be like, hey, Jiggy Jiggy, like that. And it's funny and it makes some laughter, right? So it kind of breaks the ice and goes,
Right,
all
exactly.
right. Okay, well, thank you. Thanks everyone for listening. This was the Feisty Aphrodites, and all of our information will be in the show notes on how you can get a hold of Jessica or myself. So check out our episodes by subscribing to our channel, and also check out our YouTube channels, which will also be linked into the show notes. Thanks for joining us.
And if you're feeling super brave, send us a message of what
Oh,
you're putting on
yes.
your wish list.
Please. All right. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.